Welcome back to Phoenix Radio, brought to you by Giovannino JF Navarra & Co., Tony Mohi from Merck Capital, S&J Couture Candles in Balmain, as well as Visy Dior Hotels. My name's Celeste Marachi and I'm your co-host, and I'm here with Giovannino Navarra. How are you?
I'm very good. That's a real mouthful, all those sponsors, isn't it?
It was. I'm getting tired just thinking about it.
Yeah, thinking about it, yeah. That's all right. Make sure with all those people, if you want to follow us, just look us up and follow us. That'll be great because we like to engage with our audience. We love you. We love knowing that you are there. And this is our second show, which is really exciting.
It is, yes. Second show already.
Yes.
So here we go. Today, actually, there's been a lot on my mind about weddings and planning and all of that type of stuff. Like, I'm not even engaged, but for me, I'm always stressing about how I want my wedding to go, where I want my wedding. How do you, handle that with brides? They're obviously super stressed about their wedding. What are some advices, or what do you do to help calm that situation down?
Also, this is interesting. Years ago when I was younger, when I was doing events coordinating and booking events and just organising the event itself, what I normally used to do, first of all, when the couples would come in, I would take them for a tour around the venues. And what I've noticed, a lot of times people were a little bit nervous. So by walking around the venues and talking to them, but just walking and talking, asking questions, I'd have a better insight to what they want for their wedding.
Yeah.
Now, oftentimes these are just ideas that are okay, just something to engage with someone. I would go back to the conference room to sit down with them. I had better questions to ask them. And you are correct. A lot of people are stressed out. Some people show it, some people don't. Depends on the personality type. I often find that, interesting enough, Celeste, it's more the groom, the future groom, that's actually more stressed than the bride herself.
I did not expect that.
Ask me why.
Why?
Because the brides do their research.
True.
And I noticed from a very young age that back then they used to have there was a big magazine called Sydney Weddings, which it was everybody's Bible back in the 90s and the early 2000s. So everybody would go for that. Women don't think of that at all.
No.
They probably would flick through it and pretend to be engaged, looking at it, but they just went into it. And then the internet era had come in, and people ladies were looking at their sites, either at work or then you have the mobile phone stage where people are looking on their phones constantly. Now you have all different types of social media, and you find people are looking at it. But now that's changed because now the social media aspect is so exciting and fun to look at, the content that even men are looking at that now, and they think, oh, okay, now I know what she wants. So it's interesting.
Yeah, it does sound very interesting. But
about the anxiety side of it,
yeah.
No, you're right. Look, I often say this to all my couples, block everything out.
Yeah.
It's about wedding's about your commitment to one another, the celebration of love, the love and respect and unity of yourselves and the two families involved, and to focus more on your ceremony, the church. Or if you're getting married in a park in front of other guests, you're making a strong commitment to one another, and later on it's just a simple celebration. That's the important essence of any wedding, and from there, any wedding can be fantastic. I've seen sometimes the simplest weddings being the best weddings, but people just get up, have a great time, eat, drink, dance, and merry. Everybody's cordial to one another and respectful, and everyone's having fun. They're there to celebrate. And then you see a lot of weddings where they just overdo with the decorations, the theming, and too much food, and this composition of trying so hard to have this perfect day that you can see the bride and groom, they just don't have that smile on their face.
Yeah,
and it's almost as if they're just two strangers in the one room.
Yeah.
So and if you just follow that simple formula of just being happy to be there, the wedding will be a success.
And I think it's really hard, with today, social media influencers, and everyone wants to have the best of everything. But you're right, you forget that the essential part of the day is joining two people.
Well, I ask you, Celeste, what's the definition of what is the best to you?
Well, my definition changes every day.
Yes.
At the end of the day, I think for myself, I just want to have that commitment with my partner, get married, have a ceremony, and just have a good day where everyone has a good time. They can get up, they can dance, they have good food. for me, it doesn't have to be like over the top, because the way that I see it is you're going to be spending so much money for one day. And if you're not there to enjoy it, it's a waste,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
So you're going to have a beautiful wedding day.
I'm going to have a fantastic wedding
You
day.
have a wedding day because that's what it's all about. It's not about, again, as you mentioned, it's about it's your commitment. You're in love with your partner. You want to create beautiful memories. You made a commitment between yourselves, in front of your family, and in front of God in many cases, and then from there that follows through, and you let professionals like myself and my team to look after, especially at Visit Your Hotels, to make sure it's the most magnificent event possible, and and also to reach out also to other great people in the industry, Navarra venues. They're a fantastic group of people. There's someone that can always be reliable to ensure that you get a fantastic product that day.
Exactly. And I think that's what it comes down to at the end of the day, is just having a great time and going with a venue that can actually give you everything that you want.
So Celeste, what's happening in the wedding industry? I had an interesting conversation yesterday with my social media lady and with a photographer and my Patricia, my BDM, and what we've realised, that there's been a massive flip in the last 2 years where people are more concerned by having a social media influence or social media organiser to be on the night of the event versus the photographer and videographer, even though they're very, very important, but the brides are more concerned about the person being there. What's that all about?
I think these days it's, people can't have a wedding with like 400, 500, 600 people anymore. It's just not viable for a lot of people. And they're opting to have a smaller wedding, maybe 200, 300 people, but they still want everybody to be a part of their day. So they hire these social media influencers to post on their social media instantaneously, basically, photos of their wedding, live streams of their wedding, so that everybody can be a part of their special day. Whereas when you had photographers and videographers, you'd have to wait to get the photos and then you share them. Whereas with social media, it's more instantaneous.
Wow. And they want it instantaneous because they want people to be a part of it.
They want people to be a part of it. And, if you think about it, like a lot of Australia is a very international country, and you may have guests that are overseas and they can't join you. You may have family that is unable to come to your wedding, and they want to showcase their day. They want to show everybody, like, we're getting married, this is our love story, and we want you to be a part of it, even though you couldn't physically be a part of the wedding.
And what's interesting is also the creative part of it. They want to show people the creativity by showing the individuality at the event itself.
Exactly, yeah.
Which a lot of it can be questionable, but
sometimes.
but I must admit, I really love what a lot of the what they're picking up now, especially when it comes to the design itself. It's something I always remind my staff all the time, Celeste. Appearance is key. Dress well, make sure you're wearing the right pants, the right shoes, be dressed well. With me, I don't like any piercing on their faces because, it's going to come across in the photographs. People coming to visit your hotel, you can take the piece out of your nose, Celeste. They're going to visit your hotel because they want an elegant event space. And then it's up to them to do what they want to do at the party itself. But I create the bones of it, which goes on to the food itself, which is something very, very important. I always remind my staff, please, to the chefs, you'd be surprised. That food has to be presented well at that very moment. It has to taste sensational, because by the time it's dropped off, by the time that waiter's come back in the kitchen, that particular type of cuisine, the design, the flavour, it's already been posted by a critic. The critic will often be the guest invited to the event itself. So that's why social media I find is very important. And also, Celeste, I was talking to my team yesterday. I said the importance of it, where now they need to be a part of it, because they're at my venue. They're posting every aspect of the venue. That's why the place has to look clean and tidy and organised, and everything has to visually be staged at a 5 to 6 star presentation to get people to understand what we're actually doing on the night.
And it needs to be appealing to the viewers.
But why is it so important for brides themselves that they feel that they need to have this signature for the actual event. Where I find the brides of, say, 15 years ago, it wasn't really about this. For them, it was more about just having a wonderful, relaxing time.
Well, you know, as I was thinking before, like there is a lot of focus on social media, and there is a lot of focus on what people are doing with their lives, because these days no one really, I find that no one catches up in person anymore. Everything is on social media. You know, you want to keep up to date with your friends, or you know, acquaintances and everything. It's all on social media, and you'd always want to put your best foot forward to show like your story.
You know, it's interesting. You made a remark before about, you know, no one has 400-500 people now. In up to recent years, you find the Anglo-Saxon weddings, which is more the Australian weddings, you'd find they would have originally would be 80 to 100 people, and through the years that's actually climbed up to 150, 200. And now they're doing, a lot of Australian weddings are doing up to Anglo-Saxon, where they're doing 500 people.
Oh, wow.
And you find where the ethnic weddings are sort of decreasing,
They
which
are,
the Italians
yeah.
are decreasing from 500, but they're going down to 300, 250, 200. It's actually been an opposite, which I find it really interesting.
Yeah.
And what I like about that, when you often ask them, you know, why are you having that amount of people? They said, you know, they're all my friends, you know, we keep in touch with each other. A lot of it's based on social media. And I think, you know, why not? Because weddings, I know people don't see it. Weddings are less expensive than they were, say, 20 years ago. You know, compared to what people are earning now to what they were earning back then, and take inflation and interest rates and so forth. Weddings today, you find couples will go out and, you know, take a $200,000 personal loan or $200,000 overdraft on their mortgage or something like that on their first home buy, and they'd actually put that purely towards their wedding reception. And part of it is to have the most extravagant good wedding. But what I encourage is to do you. Don't worry about what everyone else is doing. There's no competition. You know, if it's about your relationship with your husband, your love, your love for one another, the celebration of love in your vows, everything will come into place. Yeah, things always go wrong, always do. You know what? Just put a smile and let the professionals fix everything up for you.
Well, this year alone, I've been to 5 weddings, and in my opinion, the 5 weddings that I've been to this year were relatively small in comparison to what I've been to in the past. I'm used to going to weddings with my parents, and there's like, you know, 400 or 500 people, if not more.
Ladies and gentlemen, the last function she was at, she looked so beautiful. She had this beautiful white dress. You look stunning. You really did. No, continue on. Yeah, continue.
Thank you. That was only a few weeks ago. But yeah, and I feel like every wedding that I've been to this year has been 150 people or less, even though they do come from ethnic backgrounds. So that's why, in my opinion, I feel like weddings are getting more smaller, getting more intimate.
However, what they're doing, they're spending more money on decorations, I've noticed.
Yes.
So they've actually come back and they're having, say, instead of having 3 hire cars, they'll actually have 7 hire cars.
Oh, wow.
And I've noticed that they're spending a lot more money on for people on social media, influencers. They're actually spending more money on decorations and theming and staging. You know, we have beautiful parquetry dance floors, and they come along and they've actually put on these beautiful gloss dance floors,
yeah, they do.
which changed also the overall look of the rooms itself. Have just gone to the next level. So that's where people are putting money towards. What's they like? I'm a little bit old fashioned, but you know, I'm not getting married again. I'm very happy. I love my beautiful wife. But however, that's what I find that's actually happening in the event space, and people now. I notice also, and correct me, why are people sectioning off their event spaces? Because now I'm noticing more and more people want a separate antipasto area. What's the reason for that? Or
I think I like that idea. So the reason I would like that idea is to be like, you know, let's start off in this kind of room. You know, you have it decorated in one way, and then you kind of move on. So it's more like it feels more like a long day type of event, instead of just going into one room and everything's there. I think if you start off with like an antipasto room, you stay there for a while, you go into like a little cocktail room, and then it's like you open the doors to the main reception. It's like, wow, this is where the party is going to happen.
Okay.
So for me, that's why I think I would actually segregate it.
I actually thought the reason for that is just to get people to sort of break that barrier of, you know, just sort of say, you know, when you're lining up to actually grab the different dishes.
You mingle.
And you mingle. You start
Yeah.
mingling people. It's just sort of breaks down that barrier, and you can start talking to other people. It must be hard going to a wedding, especially if you don't know most of the people there.
Yeah.
And start talking. That might be a way of just breaking that barrier.
Yeah, that's definitely.
And that's another side of it. And it's just an interesting conversation piece, which food does bring people together.
Yeah, but I think that also, like, I remember when we used to come to weddings all the time. As a child, we would go straight into the reception hall. You'd sit down, you eat straight away. And there's not really that time to speak to anybody or to mingle. The only time you actually do that is when the music starts and you start dancing.
The reason why you fed straight away was you were very naughty. You and your brother, you used to go running away, and your mum used to say to me, "Can you get the food straight away so I can get them to sit down?" That was the reason why they used to do that.
That way they still do it to me now.
Yeah, they still do it to you now. It's funny.
So yeah, that's like, in my opinion, that's, it's nicer to have kind of like a little mingling session beforehand, before going and just sitting down and eating.
Yeah, I think that's nice, and I like the way weddings are going today, and I like that the fact that the bride and groom have more control of what they want and how they want the event to go. And I think it's also good that you actually communicate that with your events coordinator. A lot of in Visy Dior hotels, I have great staff over there, and their job is to listen.
Yeah.
And we often tell people to actually write exactly what they want down. Keep it simple, stupid, so to speak, one piece of paper, and leave the rest up to us. But sometimes you cannot always control a crowd, Celeste. And it's not as easy as people think. When weddings happen, people are so excited. It's also they've altered their personality, the way they dress, the way their hair, their makeup, the way they dress, the men, their partners. They become too different people when it comes to that night. So everyone's so excited that sometimes it's very hard to have a certain expectation how the crowd, your guests are going to react to the event, because they won't. They're going to have the opposite effect. So you need to just sort of relax, create that guideline, and people they'll come to the party, so to speak. And that's what we want to happen in order for it to be a sensational event that's memorable and everybody will enjoy.
And I think at the end of the day, like, everybody's an individual, right? So there's going to be no two weddings that are the same. There's going to be no two brides or grooms or guests that are going to be exactly the same. And I think that, if you have guests that come to the wedding, that they're there for you and they're there for your day. They're not there to judge or make comments. So at the end of the day, like, you should just enjoy your time and not stress.
That's interesting. So often when guests come up to me at an event, they'll come up often to, either it's two sides of it. You find that they either just want to gossip or be a critic for the sake of being a critic, or they're just trying to get a better understanding. I love the one people that come up to you and want to have a better understanding. People come up to me, why are you serving, Indian food at this function? Maybe that's what the bride and groom want.
Yeah,
Sometimes
exactly.
you can't control that.
No.
Maybe they just happen to love Indian cuisine and they want certain dishes that are Indian in the middle of the table. It's the bride and groom's special day. Celeste, if that's what they want, that's what they're going to get.
Exactly.
And sometimes I'll be people need to correct me, saying, "Oh, you should say no to them." Well, I'm not going to say no to them, because that's what I'll speak to them and advise them. Maybe it's not a great idea. Would you like to do something else? Would you like to do something similar? But sometimes there's a case of people just want that. And if I start saying no to people, then I won't have a business left.
No.
And it's about the bride and groom special day. And some of those ideas end up being sensational hits. Like, I remember when I first served salt and pepper calamari 18 years ago, 20 years ago. Now, that was not heard of. Salt and pepper calamari at an Italian wedding or Lebanese wedding or Greek wedding. It wasn't heard of because it was an Asian cuisine. We did it. We copped a lot of flack from it, but all of a sudden people liked it, so we got reprimanded and emails saying, you shouldn't be serving that. You're in Italian event centres. Well, no, we're not. We're in international event centres. We're here for the bride and groom. Now there's sensational hits. I can certain cuts of meats. I remember the first time I served the veal shank. Now that's common now, but back then, veal shank. Someone rang up and said, "Listen, I don't eat dog food." Okay, and I couldn't believe you actually said that. They go, like, seriously. But then people come to you and say certain things, but then you find there are people that just need to criticise.
Yeah.
But one thing I don't tolerate, I think is very sad. It doesn't matter how bad the night. Things can go wrong. Sometimes the things that are totally out of control. But they need to go up to the bride and groom and say, "Hey, I didn't like your food tonight," or "Hey, I didn't like the service tonight," or "Hey, I think that's terrible, because why do you need to go and ruin this special day? If you've got something to say, wait a couple of days, think about it, or ask a better question maybe to the service staff And, I hope they can explain what actually happened that night. Because things do go wrong. Maybe the bride and groom was late that night, or something happened to somebody got sick, or whatever the story is. So the staff get called away to try and fix the situation. So there might be a delay. I can go on for there's so many things that can go wrong. I had one night where there was a Lebanese wedding, and they came in to do the Gina, and the bride and groom would dance at the beginning. But what happened, they invited 100 of the guests that couldn't come to the wedding just to come in to dance at that particular time. So the room was already at max capacity. Extra people came in for that 25 minutes of dance. So the wait staff couldn't get through with the food. Literally were blocked.
Yeah.
Now I got a letter. If people ring me the next day telling me off and get upset with me because why was the food delayed and all the rest of it. Now how am I supposed to explain to them that 100 people, which they did leave, most of them did leave afterwards. That's a rarity, and they didn't tell us about it. But things sometimes do go wrong.
They do.
There could be a delay on there might be an entertainer that night. They want specifically to sing that night. The entertainer said to look, I don't want the food to be served. And he might tell the father of the bride, and the father of the bride comes in and says, no, don't serve the food. And sometimes our staff can be a little bit weak. They should say, so we need to serve the food. If not, it's going to dry up. And if it does dry up, it can, it's not going to taste as nice. It's going to become too salty because when you leave food in the oven too long, it starts to dehydrate. So it doesn't taste good anymore. So things can go wrong. Yeah. But again, ring up next day, or we'll say something to the parents, and 2 days later, look, to be honest, if they really ask the truth, look, I wasn't too happy with that, but however, it was over a beautiful function. It doesn't cost you anything. Why do you need to ruin someone's special day?
And I think,
tell us about it.
I think that if someone came up to me on my wedding day and said that they didn't like something or something was wrong, I'd be like, well, there's a door, because it's my day. If you don't like it, you don't have to be here.
That's right. And for them to come back to do that, I don't think they're very nice people. I've been very controversial. I'm sorry. Okay.
Well, that wraps up today's show. Thank you so much for joining Phoenix Radio, which has been brought to you by Giovannino, J.F. Navarra & Co., Tony Murphy from Merck Capital, S&J Couture Candles in Balmain, and Visy Dior Hotels. Have a great day.
Celeste, once again, you've been brilliant and beautiful, and thank you. And thank you for your insight, what your thoughts in the wedding industry are. And I invite you also to keep on talking to other brides out there. The more information, and we might be starting to maybe have a call-in session where people want to call in and talk, and might ask them questions about what they'd like to see change in the wedding industry. We want this to be as communal as possible. We want a lot of audience interactions.
Sounds great.
So
can't wait.
Please follow us on our socials on Visy Dior Hotels, and our own personal profiles. You have a Celeste Marachi, and see what's out there. We want you to get back to us and tell us what you think we should be doing for the future to enhance the wedding industry and the events industry too. Thank you.